Well, it is my great honor to introduce Mary Andringa, the chair of the board for the Vermeer Corporation. Mary has been a tireless warrior and strong partner in Iowa's efforts to get future ready and to develop our skilled workforce. Mary?
Well, good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure for me to make a few opening comments before we have a panel, which will really talk about these partnerships between business and education that are already happening in the state of Iowa, but that we can do more with. We can scale up even more. In January of this year, Industry Week had an article, and the theme was the #1 concern across every industry is the ability to find qualified labor. The shortage is pervasive and extends to all positions. And just a couple of days ago, the Wall Street Journal had this headline: Iowa's employment problem. Too many jobs, not enough people. Well, actually, I find both of those statements pretty true. We have low unemployment. We have 65,000 to 70,000 jobs open in the state of Iowa. And we also do have an issue of a skills gap. Future Ready Iowa did a great job over the last couple of years of accumulating a lot of data. And they showed us that 53% of the skills in the gap are the middle skill or the technical jobs. As a manufacturer, manufacturers state that the applicants that they're getting for the manufacturing jobs often lack the soft skills and the hard skills that are really needed for that job. And if we look to healthcare and the financial services, they would also say that they have those same gaps in soft and hard skills. So what are we doing about it? Well, you heard a number of things from the governor, and there are many things that are happening, just maybe a couple others to share. As a manufacturer, we have participated for the last 5 years in something called Manufacturing Day. It goes across the country. There were 3,000 events last year and 169 in the state of Iowa, which is fantastic. Whenever we've had these events, Deloitte does a survey, and they have found that 84% of students who were at one of the events emerged more convinced that manufacturing provides careers that are interesting and rewarding. At Vermeer, we will have 700 6th and 9th graders come for 2 hours and get engaged in 30+ hands-on activities. And we do a pre and a post test. The first year we did that, 34% of students said before they came, they were interested in a manufacturing job. After they left, having had just 2 hours of hands-on activities and interactions with many of our managers, 70% said they were interested in a manufacturing job because they saw the opportunities and it changed their whole perception. We also have been able to sponsor shadowing students from high school over the last many years. And I loved it when one of the students who spent 5 days with a computer programmer said, "I have now found a real-world application for algebra." It's really what Brandon's been talking about. How do we find these real applications for young people? Teacher internships and externships, the last question that was just posed. This will be our 11th year of sponsoring a cohort in our company. The STEM Council is doing a great job of supporting 60 to 65 teachers who then get involved in industry or business during the summer. And I loved it when one of the junior high guidance counselors participated in our program, and at the end of the week, he said, "I can now confidently go back to my students and say, I have seen IT and finance and engineering and welding and machining and assembly, and I know you cannot hide from math. There's math in all of it." I also loved one teacher who was extremely honest who said, "I've helped a lot of students think about careers in manufacturing, but to be honest, I was a manufacturing snob. I'm now reformed, and I have a different story to tell students because I understand not only about the career opportunities, but also the skills that are needed." registered apprenticeships, the STEM BEST programs, the scale-up programs, by the way. The STEM scale-up programs with often business mentors are a fantastic way to show relevance to young students that will have application in their later careers. In our community colleges, our private and public universities, a lot of things are going on, but I think we can scale up more. The community colleges, at least 20% of the second-year students have some sort of work-based learning opportunity. I know in the public universities, they have officially on the books 6,500 students with internships. I think that's probably low. And I know that the private colleges also talk that between 45 and 100% of their students in the time that they're in college experience an internship, a practicum, or a clinical experience. All these things are so important for our future. So one last stat, I know you've heard plenty of them this morning. 65% of students identify personal hands-on experience as the leading influence toward a career path. So we have a great start in the state of Iowa, but there's more we can do. And to hear more examples of this, I'm delighted to introduce Director Debbie Durham, who will be facilitating our panel.
Well, I too want to wish you a very good morning and let you know it is indeed a pleasure for me to be here today. It does seem fitting, as Director of the Iowa Economic Development Authority, to be moderating this particular panel discussion about business and education. The two topics are intrinsically linked and equally critical to Iowa's future growth. Future Ready Iowa is a great example of how the state is recognizing the need to be more systematically connect the classroom from K-12 and beyond with the workforce. Through the Future Ready initiative, we have set a goal to have 70% of Iowans earning some kind of market-recognized education or training beyond high school by the year of 2025. Reaching that goal will mean more Iowans will have rewarding careers in high-demand fields, and that employers will be able to hire the skilled workers that they so desperately need. The result will be even better quality of life in communities all across this great state. Expanding work-based learning is a key focus of today's summit. This morning's panel is comprised of leaders from both industry and academia. They will be providing their invaluable perspectives on how employers and educators can work together to help students prepare for careers and strengthen our workforce talent pipeline. So let's begin the discussion. So I'm going to begin with Dan Cox, Charles City Community School District Superintendent. In 2015, the Governor's STEM Advisory Council awarded Charles City and several surrounding school districts a STEM BEST Award, a grant. BEST stands for Businesses Engaging Students and Teachers. These grants let educators and business professionals design real-world, hands-on, work-based learning experiences for the students. Would you summarize what your district has learned from launching the program you call Big North, and what advice you would give to other school districts contemplating STEM BEST programs? Dan.
Thanks, Debbie. So, pleasure to be here today. We have probably 3 lessons that we have really learned through our STEM BEST program. And our consortium does involve Charles City, Rockford, Osage, and New Hampton. It's a rural spin on the Iowa Big program from Cedar Rapids, and we thank them for helping us launch. The 3 lessons that we've really learned, number 1, students can do amazing things when you empower them to do so. Secondly, we're better together. And third, this can really be a way to drive economic development. So I'll share some stories about this. We have a snow day today, but we have 8 kids who are down here excited about the work that they're doing because it's engaging and relevant to them. They've been empowered to do things like work with Cambrix, one of our local pharmaceutical companies. Cambrix had a problem that they had they had bins that they would use, and they could use it about 7 times, and then they had to just discard them, and it was costing them $200,000 a year. They hadn't been able to solve what to do with this, so we engaged with them as a project, and students collaborating with the adults at Cambrix found a way to save that company $200,000 a year by reusing those bins. one of our successful programs. Students across our 4-school consortium would say things like, you know, there's nothing to do here in our small town. And that's a statement that kids make everywhere, from Des Moines all across our fine state. So they had heard about this thing called a drive-in theater from their parents. And they were really intrigued by that. And they said, well, hey, why don't we start one of those up? And they dove into that project and had come up with ideas about how they could construct a big screen, and then realized, holy cow, that's going to be a lot of construction to put up and then take back down by the time the movie is over, and did some more digging and found an inflatable one that they could purchase, but it was going to cost some money. So they raised $13,000 with business partners, and now during the summer between Charles City and New Hampton, there's a drive-in movie theater either every weekend or every other weekend to provide some safe entertainment for students to engage in. And then thirdly, and I hope you'll stop at the display back over there, we have students who have engaged in a Challenge CNA, a Certified Nursing Assistant program. They are students who couldn't take part in the one option that was available, the community college option, because of their varied extracurricular activities and commitments. So how could they start up a CNA program with a business partner? And they've engaged with relevant experiences that Brandon was just talking about. Everything from designing how it would work, working with the Department of Inspections Appeals, still waiting on approval, but hoping that that's going to come very soon. And they are here to share their experiences of how they've had to be adaptable, patient, flexible, and engage in this adult world of how do we start a program from scratch. And it's one of our unique programs that actually has a student from each of the 4 consortium school districts. So we're proud of that work, and please visit with them today. And at economic development, you know, this is a great way to get kids to realize there are good paying jobs in your local community. You don't have to leave and go elsewhere. So this is something that we're doing to try to stem that drain from rural Iowa and keep people in Northeast Iowa.
Thank you, Dan. That's very exciting. Okay, so next we have Roger Hargens, President and CEO of AccuMold. Roger, you have formed a partnership with the Des Moines Area Community College to create the AccuMold Scholars Program and train your future workforce. What made you first decide to pursue the partnership in this program, and what does the partnership involve? And is it realistic to think that businesses of any size could benefit from such a partnership? And Roger, to answer your earlier questions, you do not have 20 minutes.
Thank you, Debbie. We got involved with Des Moines Area Community College 11 years ago when my business partner, Steve Bull, and I sat down with Rob Denson, the president of the college. What was really exciting, Rob was willing to listen to us. He said, what can we do differently? We saw the need going forward that we needed more people in tool and die, mold making, robotics, and automation 11 years ago. So we started out in a program that was somewhat really at a low level, and reworked the curriculum, put more math into it, and Rob really became a big supporter in the state of Iowa in our AccuMold Scholarship Program. 11 years later, we started out with 2 per year. 11 years later, we're doing 10 per year, 5 in tool and die, 5 in robotics and automation. We got involved in it because I saw the need going forward. What was going to constrict the growth of AccuMold was our not having a large enough, well-trained workforce that could really meet the demands going forward. And I can tell you the success of these young men and women going through the program has blown me away. Our biggest challenge for us old guys running the business is to make sure we challenge the young people. They want to be challenged. They're smart. They're hardworking. You got to recognize it and give them a direction, a strategy, and get out of their way because they can do the job. And when companies do not reach out to their local community colleges, their universities, their private colleges, they're absolutely shortchanging themselves and the people in Iowa. It's a great program, and Future Ready Iowa, what the governor, lieutenant governor, and everybody here has put together is absolutely the right thing going forward. So I know our HR people, we have people doing tours all the time. Grace Swanson, our VP of Human Resources, has done a phenomenal job. We have people from all corners of the state coming in to spend an hour to say, look at this high-tech advanced manufacturing company where you can really work and have a great career path. So we always welcome. I know we've got a lot of kids here today. Be sure and get a hold of us. We'd love to talk to you.
So you think all businesses? I mean, this would work for any business of any size.
Right, any business of any size. This was a template that was set up. We do a lot of proprietary work in high-tech manufacturing in Ankeny. We ship all over the world, 23 countries. This, however, this program of the apprenticeship is not proprietary. I want it shared with every company in Iowa so they can benefit from it.
Well, thank you, Roger. Thank you for your foresight and being proactive. And thank you for answering the call every time we call to put you on another board. So we appreciate you.
You're welcome.
All right, so Dan Kinney, Iowa Western Community College president, is next. The Iowa Western Community College has partnerships with 4 Southwest Iowa businesses to provide customized workforce training. And Dan, would you describe these partnerships and how they came about? And let me just say, Dan, that I do a lot of traveling myself besides the governor and lieutenant governor. And every time in your region, I just hear these incredible accolades about your community college and how you really are very actively working with the business communities there to meet their needs. So I commend you for that.
Thank you, Debbie. We have a lot of great staff at the college who do a wonderful job of connecting with business and industry. Back in the fall of 2015, Fred Lyle was the president of Lyle Corporation, approached me and wanted to have a discussion about an issue they were having finding manufacturing personnel, machine technicians, the high-skilled part of their company. And he also said that they looked at their employee base and they were going to have a lot of retirements coming up in the next few years. And he said, we're spending a lot of money stealing employees from each other. There are really 5 manufacturers in southwest Iowa. And he said, what we do, and we'd have a vacancy, we'd go over and steal one from AKS, and then MALA would have a vacancy, and they'd come over and steal one from us. And we were all spending a lot of money, and it really wasn't going to solve the problem. And so we gathered representatives from 5 of the manufacturers. The reason there were 5 at that point is there was a manufacturer there who decided to close their business and move those jobs to Mexico. That was before the last election, so that might not happen now. But anyway, so by late fall of 2015, we had a plan for a curriculum and the equipment that were needed to create what we call the Center for Excellence in Advanced Manufacturing. And the companies assisted us with the cost of renovation of a space. We had a space on our Clarinda campus that we renovated, and then also with the equipment. And Fred Lyle was so involved and excited about getting this program going, we had to install some huge power to that building, a lot more than we ever needed for just as an education building to run these machines. And so Fred says, we have a company we work with, I'll just have them do that. And he says, you don't need to go through all those bidding processes that colleges have to do. He says, I'll just pay for it. And so he was very much involved in getting it started. The student cohort is selected by the companies. These are incumbent workers. They're employees that have been demonstrated abilities that the employers, the 4 companies, believe will allow them to have the ability to succeed in this program and fill the available jobs that the companies have. And they already know those people. So in a way, the students that were in the initial 2 cohorts were really in an internship before they got into the program. But anyway, in the fall of 2016, we had our initial cohort of 15 students. And in May, 15 students are going to graduate from the program after 2 years. That's great. In the fall of 2017, we started with a cohort of 12 students, and so far this year, those 12 are all progressing very well. One of the things that we planned to do with this program, and it was our initial plan, but they really wanted to start getting people through the program, so we went with the incumbent worker part of it. And it's non-credit, but it's all the curriculum that was designed by the companies and what they wanted these employees to know. But we are in the process now of creating or converting that program to a credit-bearing program. And so next fall, our plan is that we're going to begin to recruit recent high school graduates, and others in the community that aren't necessarily working in the industry already. And so that program will continue and continue to meet the needs of Southwest Iowa, and I have already gotten the sign that I'm talking too much.
Oh, okay, there's a sign. Oh, that's good, all right. Dan. Thank you for that. Our next panelist is Steve Gilbert, Gilbert Home and Comfort owner. And I can only imagine, Steve, how busy you are, as strong as the economy is, and it seems like housing is the big topic of conversation everywhere, besides workforce. So why did Gilbert Home Comfort started a registered apprenticeship program? By the way, I'm a big fan. And share with us the advantages and any challenges that this approach to workforce training has brought about.
Well, it goes back to 2011 when I came back to the family business. We're a small business, and we are rural, so I think we represent the majority of businesses and communities in Iowa. So I think we provide a good example of what can happen in the majority of businesses and communities in Iowa. But when I came back in 2011, I had been a high school and college football coach for 23 years and wanted the opportunity to coach my kids through high school. So I'd made the choice to come back to the family business. There wasn't really a succession plan. Dad was getting towards the end of his career, and I thought I was just going to be there for a short stop and then back into coaching. And here I am 7 years later. So when I went and looked out at the opportunity to grow the business and I went to the trade meetings, everyone was my dad's age or older. And I said, we have a real problem here and it's coming quick. It's even magnified more so in rural. So that was when we started looking for opportunities, strategies to control our own destiny, to be proactive. And I spoke with Greer Sisson and Richard Madden, the DOL apprenticeship office in Des Moines. They were great help. And where we're located is extreme southern Iowa, so we're kind of like the rural to the rural, really. And so we had to figure out something that worked for us. And having our own program and going with an online provider that we use, Penn Foster, allowed us to be able to train our people in our own facility and not have to worry about transportation 2-3 times a week and possibly losing employees. So the end result to all of it is that we were 3 employees when I came back. I grew up in a town of 120 people right on the Clark-Decatur line. And we now have over 40 great people working for our company in 7 years. We've grown over 1,000%. And thank you. And I credit my dad because he was, I was his apprentice back in the day when it was just, you were going to get a meal and a bed. So, and I learned a lot from those days. And so I appreciate what my father taught me about work ethic and showing up. And me being a football coach for 23 years has allowed me to really target, young people with those. I hire to the person. I don't necessarily need the experience. If an employer would have patience with the right people, give them the platform and the structure, I've found that in 6 months they're break even, and in a year they're profitable. So the coaching in me and player development has also lent itself very well to the business owner.
Right. Well, Steve, thank you for sharing that. And what a great testimonial for apprenticeships and the flexibility of them, just the quality of the training. So thank you. All right, so now I'm going to turn to this side of the table. All right, so we have Mark Putman, Central College president, and Dr. Wendy Winterstein, the fairly brand new Iowa State University president. And so I'm going to actually pose this question for both of you. Has your thinking changed in recent years about the role of work-based learning in college? And if so, would you share examples of how work-based learning opportunities on your campuses? So, President Putman, I'm going to stop with you.
35 years into my career, a lot has changed, you can imagine. I was a philosophy major in college, and somehow I muddled through. But what we find now is a greater emphasis on work-based learning opportunities. I was reading through Central's mission statement, and it says Central integrates career preparation with development of values essential to responsible citizenship, empowering graduates for effective service in local, national, international communities. So the career preparation piece of this is obvious even for a small liberal arts college. So there's a bit of mythology that exists around the kind of work we do on our campuses. And so when I think about how we are structured, and in fact all of post-secondary education is structured, we're all trying to do three things at once. One is some level of general education, general learning, liberal learning, as we've called it for decades. The second is professional learning applied often to specific fields or with specific career interests, orientations. And then the third is experiential learning. So all programs of study that we operate at the post-secondary level integrate those at some level, though we apply different weights to different programs as we issue them. So when I think about what happens with students in this regard, they benefit from the breadth of learning that is present, but they do have, as we've heard in the data this morning, direct interests. They're not always right about what their interests are. There is a discovery and exploration process that is necessary, and human development is what it is. It'd be much more efficient when they're 12 if they could figure all this out. But we often find them in our post-secondary universe still grappling with the questions. So work-based learning plays an incredibly important role. And when you look at independent colleges, as Mary Andringa had mentioned, the range is 45 to 100% of students doing work-based learning. But the typical college in our independent college set would have about 70% of students doing work-based learning, internships, cooperative education, undergraduate research, service learning, clinicals, practica, all kinds of things like this. So that's what really animates their learning and makes it relevant, places it in a real world setting. So significant change, I think, over the past 35 years of my career.
Wendy.
Great comments, and I would just build on them a little bit from the experiences at Iowa State University. We're a university that is focused on science with practice, and that was from day one, now more than 160 years ago. So I'm going to give you just two examples of how we succeed in this area. The first one is in our College of Engineering. We have a College of Engineering at Iowa State that is the 7th largest in the nation for the undergraduate program. And last year, the seniors that are required to do a capstone project as part of their graduation requirements, they worked on 134 projects. 112 of them were with Iowa companies, and this included companies across 26 Iowa counties. And the companies involved reported impacts of more than $92 million from those projects. So that is work-based learning, a great example from the College of Engineering. Secondly, at Iowa State University, we're working to have entrepreneurship, having an entrepreneurial ecosystem for our students really be part of our brand. So we've been doing this for several decades in different ways across many of the colleges, but we're going to be building on that in a significant way. One quick example, Colin Hurd is a student that graduated about 4 years ago now. At Iowa State, he started his first company before he graduated, a company called TrackTill. He worked with a company to license that technology. He now has his second company at the ISU Research Park, a company called Smart Ag. So that's entrepreneurship. And the Research Park gives us a great venue to connect our students and these companies, whether they're startups or existing wonderful Iowa companies, to access the talent of these tremendous Iowa State University students.
Well, thank you. I have to say it's exhilarating being on campus at the Research Park and seeing legacy companies like Vermeer and all of them come together, and the new startups going on as well. So let me just pose one additional question to both of you. What are your thoughts about requiring every college student to either have an internship or some kind of work-based learning experience as part of graduation?
Really important, but for two very different reasons. I would support it a lot. So about 3/4 of our students will do an internship while they're in school. And there are people like Corey McCleary, I think of, did an internship this past summer. He's an engineering major at the college. And in September, when he got back to the campus, the firm he was interning with offered him a job. And then during this year, he's done a senior capstone project with a classmate, and they built a robotic snowblower, which I absolutely love playing with. What's
That's
interesting
a great
about
idea, by the way.
it's fabulous.
Yes.
I mean, you can sit inside and do the whole driveway. It's
Great idea.
absolutely remarkable. But they worked together with a Vermeer engineer as a capstone project. So they were able to tie that together in a way that was meaningful for their experience. The other side of this coin is a conversation I had with a student at the end of the summer, beginning of last fall semester. And I said, "What'd you do this summer?" And she said, "I did an internship." I said, "How'd it go?" She said, "I never want to do that again the rest of my life."
Oh,
And how important is that moment, right? We just saved 10 years where someone could go and attempt something, try it, work on it, and come back and say, "That's not the right thing for me." Much better to capture them because they've qualified themselves through that experience. So I like it for both reasons, as a learner, to validate and then also to accelerate.
very wise.
So at Iowa State, we have lots of different curricula that require internships or some kind of experience in a research laboratory. So it's pretty a widespread effort right now. As part of our strategic plan, we decided to go with a more general statement about looking to have a goal of our students all having 2 high-impact experiences, of which internships, co-ops, other types of experiences could be built into that student's time outside of the classroom. And so we are working towards that goal, and I think that will further prepare our students for the placement that they have with Iowa companies. Just a quick reminder, we place across the university, regardless of major, placement rate right at 95%.
Well, thank you both for lending your voice to this panel. Next, we have Rebecca Signer, Director of Global IT for Parts and Services of John Deere. I can only imagine a very big job, so thank you for joining us. John Deere is involved in STEMBEST project with the Bettendorf and Pleasant Valley school districts to solve authentic computer science programs. Why did John Deere commit to this partnership, and what have you learned in the 3+ years since it started?
So developing the IT Academy with Bettendorf and Pleasant Valley school districts was a great opportunity for John Deere to extend the work that we're already doing. So each year, the John Deere Foundation invests over $1 million in youth education programs, and John Deere employees contribute nearly 30,000 volunteer hours in support of STEM-related activities. So the Academy was just a new and unique way for us to further get a deeper relationship with some of the youth in our home communities. So, and when you, as a business, have an opportunity to connect with and engage with high school students who are still preparing for the future, trying to determine what path they're going to follow, what a great opportunity to connect with them, share with them the kind of jobs that are available to them within your business. And when you partner them with experts in specialties like mobile technology, user experience, or agile methodologies, it gives them the opportunity to see what a day in the life of a John Deere employee is like firsthand. So last fall, the first group of students participated in the Academy. We were extremely excited and amazed with the capabilities and enthusiasm of those students. At the beginning, they started with 2 real-world problems that they needed to solve. Throughout the semester, with the support of the John Deere volunteers, their teacher, they executed the full life cycle of a project. And at the end of that project, they had developed 2 mobile applications that they presented as part of their final project. For all of us, for the students, for the schools, for John Deere, this was a great collaboration and had benefits on all sides. For the students, they highlighted the work-based experience, the opportunity to sit next to experts in the classroom who taught them, who problem-solved with them. And several of the students highlighted that this helped to encourage them to continue to pursue higher education in an IT field. For the educators in the schools, it was great to be able to offer this class to their students. Also, it gave them better visibility to the skill sets and tools that are required to make their students successful. And for John Deere, it allowed us to connect with future innovators and potential future employees who might join our team one day, and also to showcase the kind of problems that John Deere is trying to solve, the way in which we solve those, and the innovative solutions that we're developing. And the best part is that those opportunities exist right here in the state of Iowa.
Well, thank you, Rebecca. And certainly we understand that computer science, IT, particularly within our manufacturing verticals and our bio, are really high demand. But I want to talk about another high demand initiative and partnership you have. So in addition to the STEM Best opportunities, John Deere has also worked with IJEG, another great program in the Quad Cities, to develop work-based learning opportunities for their welding program and internship program. So how has this helped? I mean, obviously welding is another high demand that we hear all the time as we travel the state.
Absolutely. And within the state of Iowa, this is a particularly important topic for us. Roughly 13,000 of the nearly 60,000 employees for John Deere work in the state of Iowa. So we understand that there is nothing that will have more impact on the future of John Deere than developing a supremely talented, motivated, and committed workforce. We also have learned that in order to build that workforce, we need to develop a local talent pipeline, and we need to attract diverse talent to that workforce. So over the last 13 years, our partnership with IJAG has demonstrated that those two opportunities and capabilities are available with this program. IJAG empowers thousands of young people every year and especially students in those diverse segments of our home communities that are sometimes difficult for us to reach. It empowers them to be ready for the manufacturing jobs and careers that John Deere needs to be successful. Most recently, as Debbie mentioned, the welding program. This has been an opportunity to partner with IJAG and John Deere and Blackhawk College to develop a production welding program. John Deere has sponsored scholarships for several of the IJAG students to participate in the 6-week program. I'm happy to say that we've hired 2 of those IJAG students into our workforce, and there are other students that are preparing to attend the training.
Fabulous, thank you. Well, first of all, join me in thanking this rock star panel today. And now it is my pleasure to invite Mary to close us with some closing observations. Thanks, Mary.
I also want to say thanks to the panel, and hopefully you all picked up maybe a new idea. And I would just like to say also that I think in the state of Iowa, we have an atmosphere to work together, maybe better than any other state. Maybe it's why we have our #1 rating. And I have seen the community colleges and the private and the public universities all work with business and industry, and even in developing specialized curriculum for those jobs that are needed today and tomorrow. And as our governor said, but we're not done yet. And I guess the call to action to each one of us, the students here, our business leaders, our educators, is that pick up 1 or 2 things today, whether it's in the showcase or in the general sessions or in the breakouts, that you can go back and do. It might be just making sure you're making those connections between local education and business and industry. And it might be just something you can do to reach out and make these partnerships better and better for the future. So thank you very much.